Okay. Well, my computer screen says it's 12:02, so I figure now's as good a time as any to get started. So again, thank you all so much for being here. This is the second of our three-part webinar series explaining the model mentorship programming that we've brought in here to WIS Caregiver Careers. With us today is our mentoring expert, Pat McBride from Christian Living Communities out in Colorado. She will be walking us through all this great content all about setting up your skills competency clinic that both your mentors and your mentees will eventually participate in. Today's content focuses on the training that you'll provide to the mentors to prepare them to interact with these standard operating procedures and to make sure that the new CNAs that you're bringing on board understand how your community implements the standards that all CNAs have across the state. So I'll go over, oh, and also we've got Jillian Kitchen with us. Thanks for being with us, Jillian. She is our communications team lead here at WIS Caregiver Careers and a key part of the team. So thank you so much for being here, Jillian. Just so you know, we will, Jillian and I will be staffing the Q&A box as we go along. And so if you've got any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. We will answer the questions that we can as we go along, and then we'll pause for questions and answers with Pat as time allows, and then also at the end. So moving right along, we'll go over our agenda. Where we're just going to provide a brief overview of WIS Caregiver Careers. This second webinar is assuming that you've attended the first webinar. So we're not going to go into great detail of background information about the program. If you weren't able to attend the first session, don't worry, you can access the recordings and the PowerPoint slides on our WIS Caregiver Careers mentorship materials online folder, which will also be showing to you as we go along today. All the materials that Pat's going to be presenting are available in that online folder. So we'll go over the program, touch quickly on what this mentorship model is all about, hand it over to Pat for all the do's and don'ts and full content of what this training is all about. We'll close up with some reimbursement reminders to make sure that everybody who's participating knows how to claim their reimbursements, both for training and for the mentorship bonuses that the program is now funding. So I hope you enjoy today's webinar, and we'll just keep it moving. Okay, so WIS Caregiver Careers is a workforce development program designed to address the CNA shortage in Wisconsin nursing homes by providing free training, free certification testing, and employment retention bonuses. In addition to our goals of adding more CNAs to the Wisconsin State Registry, the program has these overarching goals to help support our nursing home employers with recruitment and retention best practices. So the key hallmark of WIS Caregiver Careers is employer-led training. That is a recruitment and staff development strategy wherein employers organize and pay for the training that's needed to do the job. So WIS Caregiver Careers provides the reimbursement for that employer-led training and allows our employers to get experience in this type of strategy in a very low-risk environment. In addition to that, we have our mentorship aspect of the program, and that is really focusing in on best practices when it comes to retention. As Pat, I'm sure we'll touch on, this model has been proven to increase retention of caregivers. And so we're hoping that by providing these tools, a variety of different models can take a shape in Wisconsin and continue the program's impact long term. In addition, I just wanted to mention quickly that we have recruiting tools available on our employer web pages. That's available through both the WHCA website and the Leading Age Wisconsin website. Those tools include sample job descriptions that you can use for a WIS Caregiver Careers trainee and WIS Caregiver Careers mentor. If you want to post those onto your website and include the existing CNA workforce in your WIS Caregiver Careers outreach strategy. We also have brochures, videos that you can post to social media or your website, all sorts of good information on those employer web pages available through WHCA and Leading Age Wisconsin. Just some basics about how the mentoring aspect of the program is set up. We try to put through as few requirements on the employers as possible, while also providing the structure. The criteria for participating in the mentorship aspect of the reimbursements that we provide are limited to what you see here. So you have to assign mentor within the first month of hire for new hires. For incumbent employees that you're upskilling, we ask that that mentor is assigned within the first month of the start of training. We ask that you do not exceed 2 mentors per, or 2 mentees per mentor at any given time. That's designed so that each mentee gets the support and attention that they need. And then by accepting our employer mentor bonus reimbursement, the employer is committing to pay that reimbursement to the mentor. And the mentor receives that $500 bonus for each mentee that achieves that 6-month retention. One thing I did want to mention is that it's not required that you follow this particular mentorship model in order to participate in the mentorship reimbursements that the program provides. We just think that this is a really good proven model, and we hope that you can take as much of it as you can and implement the ideas in your facilities in a way that makes the most sense to you and the needs that you have. So without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Pat. Thank you again so much for being here, and take it away. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Kate. So just a summary. So we had our first webinar, and we talked about the basics of the mentor program at Christian Living Communities. So we're located in Denver, Colorado, and we have rural, we have urban communities, we have small, large, skilled AL, home care, and we use this mentor program now successfully for over 10 years. And we have seen some really great improvements in our retention. You know, we all had that blip with COVID, but we've seen great retention. We've seen our mentors become leaders in our organization. We've seen our surveys improve because people know exactly how to do skills, and it's just second nature when survey walks in. Everybody just knows exactly how to do things that surveyors are going to be inspecting and watching. So we've had some really great success with our mentor program. It has changed over the 10 years. We've adopted and changed. And so as Kate has said, please feel free to use all of this material that we have. It's all on the site here, and we'll go through some of them. But just know that you can tweak this and make it whatever you need for it to be for your community. But so the first class, we talked about the basics of the mentor program. We talked about the responsibilities of the mentor champion. Hopefully you've given some thought about who is going to be the champion of your communities. That's the person that is going to set up training, make sure the reimbursement is done, delegate duties. She or he is the person that is really going to make sure the program is running. Hopefully you've gotten some buy-in from your leadership communities. I'm sure you have, or you wouldn't be on this webinar. And you've identified some of the responsibilities of the champion. So we also talked about the application for people who would like to be CNA mentors and the interview process. So maybe you've started taking some applications of people that would like to be mentors in your communities, and maybe you've already done some interviewing. So you can be anywhere on that spectrum, right? But today what we're going to be specifically talking about is when the mentors are interviewed and chosen, what does the champion do now? How do we prepare for that full day of training? So we're going to just touch on a little bit about so the training is 8 hours for your new mentors, the actual training. The morning is more of a didactic, so it's more lecture and work on certain skills. The afternoon is the skills lab, we call it. So that's where your mentors check off on their skills. So we're going to spend a lot of time really talking about the skills lab today. So any questions about where we are right now with what we're going to be going over with this particular webinar? There'll be one more where we'll go over the morning training. We'll actually do it with you to prepare your mentors. Okay. So your mentors have been chosen. It's important that you have good phone numbers and emails for everyone. So you've interviewed them, you've congratulated them. We make this a really big deal. Remember, this is an elevated role and they should feel really proud that they've been chosen to be a mentor. The next step is you would want to make sure you have a nice email that says when the training is for your mentors, exactly what time it starts, what time it ends, where they're to meet you, where the classroom is. We always supply lunch because that's a great time for mentors to get to know each other in between the training. But you need to let them know if they need to bring lunch or you're providing lunch, find out if they have any dietary restrictions. Let them know what to wear. We make sure people come business casual because they're going to be doing skills and they're moving around a lot and we don't want them to feel constricted in their clothing. And then we just make sure that they wear their name tags so everybody can get to know each other. And so you then send out that email, because what we found is that when you do the interview and you try to tell them all of that, they'll forget it because they're so excited that they've been chosen to be a mentor. So write it down in a nice letter for them, welcoming them, and then send that out before your training date. So this is just an idea of a form that we use that are all available for you to keep track of your mentors' contact information so you can let them know about the training. Next slide, please, Jillian. Thank you. The next important thing you want to do is, as a mentor champ, and again, you can delegate this if you're able to, is you've got to print off the documents that are needed for the training. So these are going to be used for that full day training. And you'll find a folder. These are the kind we like, where you can put your business card in. And on the right side of your folder is going to be the PowerPoint for the morning class. And on the left side are some of the other documents that you will need, including maybe a time edit sheet that you'll need, some other things. So Kate, if you wouldn't mind going into the folder and showing people how to do the right side and the left side for printing this folder, I'd appreciate it.
My pleasure. So I am going to share my screen now. Okay, and what you'll all be seeing here, hit share. Okay, do you see the folder?
Yes.
Okay, so what you're seeing here is our online mentorship folder. Okay, and this information will be found under the Mentor Program CNA Competency Skills folder. Okay, and within this folder, we have this. Oh, and also I should mention, we have it both in Word format and PDF format so that you can use the supply or the materials exactly as is if you want to use the PDF, or if you want to customize it to your own branding, you can use the Word documents. So Pat, remind me, which one do you want to see first?
Let's do the right side.
Okay. Oh, actually, I think that one, I apologize. It's actually in Train the Trainer training. Okay, so here we go. Right pocket.
So this will be the actual PowerPoint that we will be using with the morning training that we will be going over at our next webinar. So these are the actual PowerPoints. We find that it's good that your mentor, your soon-to-be mentor, once they go through the training, has this so that they can take notes and they can refer to it later. So this is just the PowerPoint that we're going to use. And then on the left side of your packet, of your folder, you're going to put in all kinds of things or potentially put in. So it's the policy, it's a nice form on how to make the mentee feel comfortable on their first day. It's your mentor bonus forms that they can fill out. It's the evaluation forms for the mentor or the mentee. We have a nice form that says early warning concerns of a mentee that we really have liked. This one we developed later on in our training. We had mentors that said, I'm just not sure about this new hire. Hiring can make you very humble, right? And it helps the supervisor of that mentee know that this person is struggling and the mentor notices it. And this is based off of the Interact tool called Stop and Watch, which we use a lot of in our communities. And the mentor will just circle it, what's going on, or even write on the side, she just doesn't seem engaged, or he is always late, or the residents aren't finding them to be warm and friendly, or whatever the concern can be. And then we just give that to the supervisor, and those mentors that are working on the off shifts, the evening or night, they slide it under the supervisor, typically the health and wellness director or the DON's door. And then the DON can be aware and can help work to make sure that new mentee has everything they need to be successful, or maybe figure out that just wasn't a very good hire for our culture or community. So those are some of the forms that are in the left side of the packet. We also have Mentor Training for Goodness Sake book, I believe, if we can open that one up. So this is just a great poem about being a CNA. And we just love to include that. We have Mentor Training Personal Styles questions, which we'll use in the mentor class. Again, that's the morning part of the mentor class, not the skills class. So this is where we do some role playing about what is your personal style of leadership. And this is just how we determine what your style is based on the quiz. And then we have the team building styles in here. And there's 4 different styles, and we have explanations about what those are. And then we also have the evaluation for the mentor program. So these are all things that the champion or a designee, and you can, again, put it in your own letterhead, which is always a nice thing to do, or use with Caregiver Careers. But so this is your packet that you will be printing out for the day training for your new mentors. So we have it labeled left side and right side. So the right side is the PowerPoint for the didactic, and the left side are all those other forms that we will use for the training. Okay. Any questions on that?
I can put the link into the chat too if we don't have that in there yet.
Okay, great.
I'll put that in there so that everybody can access it at their leisure. One thing we do request is that you don't share the link outside of the Wisconsin long-term care community, as this is not a password protected site, and we want to just protect the integrity of the materials. Okay, so that's in the chat for anybody who needs it. Okay, and then I'm going to turn my screen back to Jillian so she can share the PowerPoint.
Okay. And hi, Jane, we will talk about smaller communities. I appreciate the Q&A there. Okay, so there's your packet that you're going to want to print out for each new mentor that you're going to be training. And of course, this can be done way in advance, and you can do a whole lot of them if you want in advance to make it easier, but you will need one for each participant. And these are all the forms that are on the left pocket that we went through. Okay, so let's talk about just touch on the morning of the training, because I know this whole class, most of this is about the skills lab. But in the morning, there's going to be the didactic, which you'll use that folder for. So it is typically what we do is we have the class from 8 to noon. Again, that's all described in that letter that we sent out to the new mentors, congratulating them. We say, please meet in this classroom promptly at 8 o'clock. Wear casual clothing. Our day is going to go till 4 o'clock. We will provide lunch. And you just need to show up with your name tag on. And so I just want to go over a little bit about what that morning training is. But again, our next webinar is going to be all about this training. We're going to actually go through the training with you. But we go over things such as we go over the process. What is the program? We go over the importance of communication and how we different ways that we communicate with each other. We talk about leadership and how that's a skill, and we identify each other's leadership characteristics and traits. We talk about managing stress and time management, which is really an important skill that new mentors need to have. We talk about different learning styles. We talk about how you're not training children, you're training adults, and adults learn in different ways. And we talk about how adults are either visual, auditory, kinesthetic learners, and we teach them how to identify what their mentee is and how to teach based on their particular learning styles. We talk about change and change management and team building. We do some great role playing around how we are much more powerful as a team than we are individually, and we can get a lot more done as a team. And it's really a great interactive morning. So you as a champion can do this training. It does not require you to be a nurse or a CNA. It just requires you to be a leader in your organization and a champion of the mentor training. So now let's talk about the afternoon. So if we can go to the next slide. Okay. So we've done the didactic. Again, we'll go over that next meeting. We have lunch, or we provide lunch. And then we have our skills afternoon. So typically our skills afternoon are from 1 to 4 o'clock. And we will set up stations. And once your program is up and running and you have mentors, they can retrain your new mentors. So you will have mentors to start with, and then they'll leave or they'll become nurses or something, and you'll have to do this again to have more mentors. So when you have your mentors, use them to help you with this program, because they know this program, they've been a mentor, so they've been through this training, and they're a valuable resource. And this is one of the ways you can use them in a leadership position. So these are two of our mentors that we use quite a lot now for any mentor training that we do. And at Christian Living Communities, we do that mentor training every January and every July for new mentors. And so we invite some mentors to come to lunch and meet the new mentors. And then they also set up your skills stations for the afternoon. So if we can do the next slide. Okay. So now you're also going to print off all your competencies and your skills. Or your skills checkoff lists. We call them competencies. Many of you call them skills checkoff lists. So if we could, because these are going to be used in the skills lab. So the afternoon or the skills lab is when your mentors test out on all your competencies. And it's really important that your mentors go through these skills and test out of them, because what we have found is quite often mentors do not really know how to do the skills the way that we want them to do them. And we don't want to create that, have them then training new mentees or new people incorrectly on the skills. And they, quite often some of these CNAs have been around a long time and they're very, very good at what they're doing, but they might skip a step, or they might forget that in Wisconsin, we are required to do this step or this process. And so it's really, really important that your mentors test out on the skills that they are going to be using for their new hires or their mentees in the communities with their residents. So that's what the purpose is of the afternoon, is to make sure all of your mentors are on the same page with skills so that they can teach the same skills to your new hires. And it creates more consistency and better quality. So if we could go to, Kate, if you could go to the hand hygiene competency.
Sure thing. Okay, so I'm just navigating over there right now. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, do you see the drive, the Google Drive now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I always want to make sure everyone's seeing what I'm seeing. One little nuance I want to mention is that when we're talking about teaching these CNAs the skills, we are assuming that these CNAs are already trained and certified according to the state standards. And when we're talking about teaching them skills, we're talking about teaching them the specific SOPs associated with the way that your facility does each of them. And so we don't want to make it seem like we are having the mentors actually do the training, because we know that that needs to be done by an RN, or the training associated with certification, I should clarify. So here you go. Here's the hand hygiene competency. We provided this as an example. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is just so your CNAs are all certified in Wisconsin, so they've already become CNAs. What the skills lab is, just to make sure that they are doing the skills exactly the way your community wants things to be done, right? So it's just checking them off and making sure that they are very competent in what they're doing, which we find that they usually are, and that they then will be training these new CNAs, checking them off on competencies in the correct way. So thank you for clarifying that, Kate. So this is an example of Christian Living Communities skills for hand hygiene. And we have got a template that we're giving you where you will fill in all of your own skills and your competencies of things that you find that are really, really important. And so the template, thank you, Kate, looks like this. Okay. And again, you can put your own logo on that. You can put whatever state steps you need. What we find is that these are very fluid competencies because things change and you can add to them, you can subtract to them, you can add new ones. So we had a whole slew of ones with COVID. If you have a new piece of equipment, say you have a new lift, for example, you can come up with your own competency on how you use that lift based on the requirements of the lift. All kinds of things you can use these competencies for. But so you're going to have the template, and your responsibility is to make these skills competencies based on your community and Wisconsin's regulations. So if we could go back to the hand washing one quickly. Thank you, Kate. So again, it's just step by step. And if what we expect people to do is, so let's say you have your mentors working with mentees, they will just sign their initial that they have done each step. And then on the bottom, they sign their names. Okay. And that's really important that they sign each step, because that shows that you've gone over every step with them and they haven't forgotten something. Okay. And then so our mentors that are in training will go through the same thing. So the mentors test each other out on these because they're both CNAs, right? So we're in a big room. Every mentor has a packet, one that they're going to keep, one that they're going to be tested out on and given to their supervisor. So let's go back to any questions on this competency.
Let's see. I see two things in the Q&A box. They aren't on this though, so we can keep moving.
Okay.
I think we'll circle back on those when we
Perfect.
walk through more of the details.
Just want to make sure I'm clear as mud on this.
So should I stop the share and turn
Yep.
over to the PowerPoint? Okay. Here we
Yes,
go.
please.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to print 2 packets for the afternoon training or the skills competency. And those will be the ones that you create. And again, 1 packet is for your mentors to keep as a resource. The other packet of the same skills will be for them to be tested out on and put in their personnel file. And so the afternoon is after lunch from 1 to 4:30. And let's go to our next slide. Okay, so the skills lab is very chaotic, but it works. It's very organic. So what you want to do is, if you have mentors, please use them to help you, but you won't at the very beginning, right? But if you have nurses or CNAs that you can get to help you, that would be great. And you set up stations with different skills that you have. So we have a list here of skills, some of the skills that we have competencies for. And then you're going to set up stations. So you can do this in a couple different residence rooms. You can do this in a big common area. You can do this in your training conference room if you have one. Just know you need a lot of space and it gets quite loud, but it works. So our stations we have the sign-in station, right? Just where people pick up their competencies. We have a vital sign station. We have an ADL station where people are showing that they know how to do activities of daily living. We have a Foley catheter station, oxygen station, hand hygiene and infection control, donning and doffing gowns, and mechanical lift station. So yours might be a little bit different, but you can try this and use this if you feel more comfortable with it. We also have a list of supplies that you might be needing for each station. And that again is on that website on the form that Kate is showing us. It's a supply list for each one. So you have your stations, your new mentors have had the morning training. They have done their didactic class. They've had a nice leisurely lunch, and now they're in the skills training lab. So everyone picks a station so that you can rotate people through. You don't wait at one station. Everybody just picks a station that's not occupied. And each people pair up with another mentor and they test each other out based on the competencies. So you pull out the 1 packet of competencies and the one CNA will train the other CNA. And then they sign out on it. And then the other CNA will train that partner and sign out on it. And they put their initials on each skills lab that they do, each skills step that they do, and sign them. And it's very hands-on. So let's take PeriCare, for example. So I'm there with Kate, my other mentor, and we have our competencies. And I will go through PeriCare while Kate has my competency, and I'll say, first thing, I'm going to wash my hands. And I don't actually go over to the sink and wash my hands because it would take too long. So I show her that I'm washing my hands. And then I'm going to drape the resident, and Kate's going to say, oops, you forgot a step. Do you know what that is? And again, it's on the paper. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. And then, so that's how they learn how to do these skills. And then Kate and I will switch. And, you know, usually the mentors will review the competencies before they do them. They'll read through them, which is fine. And then once that's completed, they pair up and they each do that. Then they go on to the next station. So here is our pictures of the stations and the mentors working with each other. We tend to have about 6 to 8 people in each one of our mentor classes. And you can tell that this was during COVID that we've done this. We also have, you can see that lovely mannequin. We call her Kelly because she's got all kinds of different parts, she or he. But that's really important, that if you can get a mannequin for training, it's very helpful. They can be very expensive. They can be about $1,000 if you get a really good training mannequin. We are applying for CMP, so that is the civil monetary penalty payments that you make when you have deficiencies in surveys. We are applying for a mannequin, a better one than Kelly, because Kelly's falling apart. But you can also get them. So Kelly, we got from, believe it or not, an adult entertainment store. So she's just a blow-up doll, and I think she was about $40. So you can be as creative as possible. Just make sure whoever's approving your expense report knows what you purchased in that store. So this is a picture of our skills lab. Let's go to the next, please. And then it's really important that once everybody's done, they keep one of the packets for themselves. They give the other packet to the champion that they can keep for their supervisor to put in their personnel files, and then we celebrate. So we always get a picture of our classes. We then give them pins, and there's a website on where to buy pins. We call it a mentor pinning ceremony, and then we present them typically at an all-staff meeting in our communities, where Natalie or myself will go to those meetings, and we will present the new mentors and give them pins. And then we often ask the new mentors to share what the experience was like. And they have some great stories, and then it gets other potential new mentors excited about potentially being a mentor in the future. So you can see this is just where we're at with steps for success. So we talked about the mentor program and how important it is, how to determine who your mentor champion is, to get the paperwork all ready, to do the interviews, try to coordinate it with your typical clinical orientation that you have. Then we do prepare for the all-day training for your mentors, which includes the morning didactic training or the lecture, the afternoon skills training, and then you celebrate your mentors, and then they work with all your new hires. Next slide, please.
Okay. So thank you so much, Pat. before we dive into like the reimbursement and the program specific content of this webinar, should we take a look at the Q&A box and make sure that we cover the questions that are here? So Melissa is asking, do you, Pat, offer a wage incentive for mentors?
Yeah, so at Christian Living Communities, we do. So our program is a year-long program, and the mentor and the mentees have to evaluate each other every month. And so with every evaluation, and when the skills are all done, people get paid, the mentors get paid. And then after each evaluation, they get paid. So it ends up, for a full year, it ends up to be $500 that each mentor will be paid for doing the orientation, the skills, competencies, and checking in with their mentor every month. So that, and if someone leaves within that month, within that year, they do not get paid. So they do get paid $500 for a year with working with their mentee.
Okay. And I'm just writing this in the chat box as well, Pat, so that the transcript of the recording will show the answer. So
Okay.
the mentors receive the $500 bonus every month or at the end of the year?
They get it in increments throughout the year.
Okay, so
And they get
incremental.
they get $100 when all the skills are done. And then they get about $50 every evaluation.
Okay. And the beauty of the way that you have structured this is that they have to turn in the evaluation in order to get the bonus. So there's a financial incentive for them to complete the paperwork that we need in order to track the progress.
Exactly. And to make sure that the mentee is feeling supported and the mentor is checking in and touching base with people. Because, you know, in the beginning, it's very hands-on, the whole program, right? This is what we're talking about. There's the training and all the skills. But after a while, it's just making sure your best friend at work is comfortable and has what they need. So sometimes it's just meeting them for coffee and talking through how are you getting along? I know you just lost your favorite resident. Let's talk about how are you doing with that? Or I knew you were having a little conflict with your coworker. How did that turn out? So those kind of things.
So important. It's
And
great.
surprisingly, what we found after some time is that the money is not really the incentive for people to do this. In fact, sometimes it's kind of hard to make sure people get paid because they're just doing it because they want to make sure that they have a great coworker working beside them that's well trained. So in the initial, the money was very much an incentive, and now it's not really that important to our mentors, to some.
Great. And then they don't get like a monthly differential, wage differential.
No, they don't. No, we only pay them when they're acting in the mentor role, extra money.
Okay. Okay. So they do get an hourly increase for those mentor hours? Oh, no, only
the $500.
Got it. Okay. I don't see any other questions right now, so let's keep it moving, and then if anybody has questions, we can always circle back. Okay. So I'll turn my video on too here. So to just go over quickly the financial side of WIS Caregiver Careers. So in addition to providing the recruitment resources and support, we provide financial support to help employers implement these strategies. And so we provide 2 different reimbursements, one upon trainee certification and one upon that 6-month retention. Unfortunately, we can only provide the reimbursements to trainees that make it to certification. The ones that don't make it to certification, unfortunately, we cannot reimburse. But for the ones that do make it, we also provide the $300 employer success bonus. And we're hoping that that bonus helps compensate the employers for any trainees that don't make it to certification. So, and then upon that 6-month retention, we reimburse you $500 for the WIS caregiver bonus, and then $500 per mentee for the mentor bonus. And mentors can earn up to $1,000 every 6 months if they're mentoring 2 people. Also, I wanted to go over how you go about getting your reimbursement. Our reimbursement system is tied into the state's nurse aid registry software, TMU. And it's a 2-step process. So the process starts with the trainee, where the trainee signs into TMU, goes under the employment tab, and selects their employer from the list of the drop-down. There's a drop-down menu that they select, and they hit submit. That request for verification, employment verification, then shows up on the facility's TMU contact. And the TMU contact would go under the employment tab, just like they would for verifying employment for federal recertification purposes. Underneath the federal recertification box, there's a new box that says WCP funding, and they just select the person's name and hit verify and submits it, and then that's how you ultimately receive your reimbursement. By doing that, it flags the person, the trainee in TMU, as a WIS Caregiver Careers participant, and it also makes it so that when that trainee goes to schedule their certification exam, they skip the payment screen altogether. It bypasses the payment screen, so they're not even asked to pay for their test. And then WIS Caregiver Careers pays the makers of TMU Headmaster directly for those tests. So you're never charged for them. The trainee is not charged for them. We take care of that once this process is complete. We ask that you try to do this reimbursement verification process as early on in the training process as possible, so that we here at the program can better monitor how well we're doing in terms of our certification goals. Also, we wanted to make sure you knew that if you've gotten trainees through to certification since April of 2022, you can have them complete the same steps in TMU to receive your reimbursement. So we can go back in time and look at all of your trainees that you've trained since April. All of them are eligible for the reimbursement. So if they're still in your employ, ask them to go in and do the steps. Also, there is a step-by-step guide for the reimbursement process on our employer webpage. And you know what, I think I'm going to show you real quick how to navigate that, so you know exactly where to click and how to find it. So I'm going to do screen share. Okay, so this is what our WHCA employer webpage looks like. Again, Leading Age Wisconsin has their own page that has the exact same information. So whichever website you're more comfortable with, please feel free to use that site. So the information about the step-by-step instructions is found under this dropdown. So free certification exams and reimbursements. And then you just click the step-by-step instructions. Those are written instructions. If you prefer a video, we've recorded our partners at Headmaster actually showing you screen by screen the steps, but they're real simple. It's just a handful of steps, and then you're automatically going to receive your training reimbursement. One also important, and then I'm going to stop my screen share and let Jillian put the PowerPoint back on there. And if anybody has questions about employer webpage or resources that we have, please feel free to type it into the chat. So I'm going to hit stop share here. And one thing I did really want to mention is that, so you do this employment verification process when the trainee is in training, and then you do it again to verify that they did hit that 6-month retention point. So about 5.5 months out from their training start date, TMU automatically sends out an email to both the trainee or the new CNA and the employer saying, this person has almost reached their 6-month retention point. Please complete employment verification so that you can get your reimbursements for your retention bonuses. So it's the same process. You go into the TMU under the employment tab and just a few clicks in there, and then you're good to go. We'll send you the reimbursement automatically. One thing I also wanted to mention is that we contract with a payment processing firm that actually sends out the payments. And so when your trainee reaches certification or reaches the retention, the 6-month retention, our payment processing firm, Baker Tilly, will reach out to you at your TMU contact email to ask you to set up your payment profile for them to pay you. Once you set it up once, you're set up forevermore. So it's just a one-time process. They collect a W-9, and then they collect details on, do you want to be paid electronically? Do you want a paper check? Those sort of things. And then we have you set up in our payment system, and it's automatic from there on out. So I hope that this process is easy enough for everybody to navigate. We're always happy to walk people through or answer questions. Anything that we can do to help get these payments to you, we want to do. So please feel free to contact us with any questions. I see something in Q&A here.
How many students have been certified through this program?
I got my report today, but I haven't had a chance to open it up yet. I can report last week's numbers. If you give me a second here, I just have to do a couple of clicks here. Okay. So far, as of the 25th, we had 175 certified in TMU. And then in training cumulative, we have 227, all of whom have passed training. And so we have a feeling that there are a lot more nurse aides out there in training that just haven't completed the employment verification process yet. So again, we just really ask you to try to do that as soon as possible so that we can keep tabs on how well we're doing. And again, if you've gotten anybody certified since April, put them through the employment verification process. If for whatever reason they no longer work at your facility, but you still did train them since April, we can still help you with your reimbursement. It just won't work through TMU. So you just reach out to us and we'll help you on an individual basis for anybody falling into that category. So, okay, no more questions right now. Any other questions? We've got our expert right here. Let's take advantage of the wonderful wisdom that she has to share with us. While we're waiting for somebody to type in their questions, Pat, I always like to ask, what do you think, what are the number one tip on how to be successful? And then what is the number one thing to avoid to be successful? So your number one do and your number one don't.
Good question, Kate. So I think the number one do is just be organized. So get your packets, get your skills supplies, and one of the don'ts is don't feel like you have to go buy all those supplies, because I know we're all on limited budgets. Now's the time to reach out and just say to your nurses on the floors, do you have an extra bedpan, or do you have, whatever, and they'll just put them aside for you. And then sometimes you don't have what you need at the time, right? So you've got to improvise. Nothing is ever goes as smoothly as you want. So I remember we didn't have a bedpan, so we just used a book. And we pretended the book was the bedpan. So it doesn't have to be perfect. and have fun with it. It's a little chaotic, the skills lab, but it's, when it's done, it all comes together and you're going to be surprised because it's so loud and people are just, but it is really eye-opening for your mentors, because they'll say, I really forgot those steps and now I think I can be better at what I do. And it just has so many great opportunities when you're best of the best. Your mentors really know how you want things to be done in exactly the way it needs to be done. It has so many other fingers to it, like better surveys and better customer satisfaction scores from your residents, and of course, better retention, right?
Yeah, I think what you just said really highlights how this model not only benefits our new workforce coming in, but it also benefits our existing workforce. Like that confidence in knowing that I know exactly the way that these skills need to be done for this job, and supported in being refreshed in those processes. It just has so many win-wins across the board. So just thank you so much. This has been a real eye-opening, informative presentation. Oh yeah, we've got one more question coming through. What about successes in large settings versus small settings? So if we've got employers out there that are in a smaller setting, how does that differ? How would you adapt this content for that smaller setting?
Well, I think that your skills labs can be small and intimate with just 2 people testing each other out. The other thing, that if you don't want to have a skills lab, you can have your mentor or your 2 new mentors pairing up, working with a resident, an actual resident, and testing out that way. You can break up the skills lab where your mentors do, 10 skills one day and 10 the next, so it doesn't have to be a full afternoon. The key is for them to go through each skills with another person to be tested out on them. So you can be as creative as you want. It doesn't have to be everybody together in one room for an afternoon. That just seems to work better for us. Because we do have classes that are, about six or 7 big each time. But if you have 1 or 2 people, that's a great way to do it. Just whatever time frame you want, and you can do it with another CNA or a resident as your actual lab.
Great. Oh yes, and please mark your calendars for our next upcoming classes. Next week we'll be going through that 4-hour training that the mentors receive at the beginning of their training day. Pat and Natalie will walk us through slide by slide their presentation, so that you can learn how to give this presentation to your mentors in your community anytime you need to. And again, we'll provide all of those resources for you to use in your facilities when you're ready to do that. And then on the 29th, we're going to be doing our Q&A. So if I encourage you to get the ball rolling with these different steps to implement this program, so that when the 29th comes along, you've got an opportunity to talk with our mentors about any questions that you might encounter while you're getting the ball rolling with either improving your current mentor program or starting up your new one. So we hope to see you on both of those dates and times. And the links to register for all of those are on our employer webpage that we showed and put in the chat. So that's how you can get in there.
And in the meantime, if you have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to me or Natalie, and we will try to answer those. It'll be a journey, but it'll be so well worth it. And we're here to help support you in that, so that you can retain really good CNAs and give quality of care to your residents. So we're here for you.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you all for participating. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.